Hello YouTube, I'm Darren Rogan and thanks for checking out this video. This is a continuation of last week's video where we're adding a product tour into a web app stroke mobile app. We're using Ionic and Angular, and in today's episode we're going to continue on using the introduction strike tour pages from the last episode. Thanks for sticking around. From the previous episode, we had added the slider, multiple page slider, as you can see, with a continue button at the end. The styling's not fantastic, I know this, but that's not the point of this video. The point is to do the implementation of the continue button, which marks the tour to be complete, as well as adding that as a requirement to enter other parts of the app. So this can be useful if you've got different sections of the application and you want people to go through a walkthrough of that section, or any other way that you could do this. But primarily, every product should have some sort of product introduction, context, and this is how we make sure that it's visible. So let's get into it. Now we're going to add in the mechanism for this to be forced into the intro and then record that the intro has been seen. So the first time you hit the app, you're going to hit this home screen, which we will get back to as well. So how do we stop the loading of this home screen and redirect you to the intro? Well, in Angular, we generally protect routes, as in going to somewhere, using a thing in Angular called a guard. And a guard can have a couple of different examples. So here's like I'll put a link in the show notes for this blog post. It seems good. I've read a bunch of these over the years, but the short of it is that it's got a few functions to do. So can load, can activate, can deactivate, can they leave a route. That's very useful, as you can see here, for preventing somebody to close a entry or close a page when they've just done a bunch of data entry but it's not persisted. So it's sort of like, please confirm you want to leave this page. Very useful. Can activate and can activate child is, can I go into this route? But the one we're going to use today is canLoad. Now I quite like this one because the way that Angular is set up, we have lazy loading done in the component. So if you look at the components route module, here we can see that you can go to the home page, you can go to the Pokemon page, or you can go to the intro page. Now each of these pages is lazy loaded. As you can see here, import. Now, because they are lazy loaded, we can now use the canLoad to determine whether or not they can even access this component, rather than having any sort of flickering or any sort of loading up and then running and then flipping through. So I find that this is the best implementation to use with lazy loading and canLoad, but you can also do it with other ones too. All right, so let's get into it. The first thing we need to do is we need to generate a guard. So you can see ng generate guard. Where am I actually? pdw. All right, so I have a guard folder. I don't know if I've created one yet. Nope. Okay, so let's make a directory for guards. Okay, and then we'll just go into the guards. You can also specify the location. I suppose I should do that. So generate guard, and my guard name is intro. Intro. Okay, let's call it intro. Intro. So that will now generate a guard, and we want to do canLoad. And here we go. We have a guard created. Intro guard. Oh, did I select the wrong one? I wanted canLoad. Let me just delete this and do it again. Delete. Move to trash. I must have selected the wrong one. Guard. canLoad. Oh, it's a multi-select. Okay, so I only want canLoad. And here we go. canLoad equals true. That's great. And if you have a look here, you can see that you want to add these in. Anyway, we'll come back to that. It's not important for us. So I want to go into my writing module. I want to say, if you want to go to the home page, which we do in the first one, then I want to do the canLoad function. And I want to add intro guard. Oops, comma, intro guard. And you can just do the import yourself. Oh, I forgot the dot. Okay, so canLoad to the home. Yeah, that's basically it. As you would come in, because there's no login in this app, you hit straight to the home page. And we want to see, do you need to see the intro before we show you the home page? And that intro guard should now be able to determine that. So now that we have the intro guard plugged in, the next thing we need to do is do the implementation on the intro guard. So to determine if it has been loaded, excuse me, we actually want to persist something that says it's been stored that you've seen. What we want to do is actually have some persistence to know that you have seen this, and some persistence that's going to last between sessions. So if you close the app and load it up again, you shouldn't have to see the intro again. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a capacitor plugin called Storage. And this storage allows us to do persistence on device without a requirement for a user. And this can be quite useful to store a bunch of stuff. So let's pull in the plugins. Okay, so we will pull in the capacitor plugins. We will load the storage plugin from the capacitor plugins. And as you can see, there are different functions, but we want to see if it exists. So let's have a look here. So we want to see constant val. So name, so let's say completed intro. Completed intro. Intro. So we're going to try to get a completed intro. If it exists, so if it exists, that means that it has been persisted, and then what we want to do is then we want to get the contents out of it to double check that it is done. So convert into .value. Now the only thing that we need to remember is that this is actually a key value store, not a database, so it will persist everything as a string. Else, what are we going to do? So if they can load it, then yeah, that's what we want to do. Else, we do not want to do it. Okay, so this return true here, and this should return false. Okay, so this is checking that we have a completed intro in the storage, as you can see here, which allows us to check if it has been populated, then it should be true. Now, one thing that we will need to do is, if it isn't, we need to writer.navigate, and we want to navigate to intro. Isn't that what I called it? And the writer, we want to import the writer. Quick fix. No. In the injectable, we need to add a constructor so that we can get access. So constructor with a private writer of class Oops. Okay, and then we import the router from Angular. Quick. There we go. I'll just change this to be a promise Boolean, because that's what it is. It's an async. And into the navigate. Oh, no, let's navigate by URL. Here we go. So now that. So just to recap, I've created a guard which has a canLoad implementation. So this will run before it tries to load the module. And in that, we are going to try to check this local storage on device to see if the intro has been completed. If the intro has been completed, it will continue. Otherwise, it will move us to the intro. So the next step is to basically do something similar in the intro. So let's go back to the intro page. Complete intro. Complete me. Okay, so what we want to do here is we will want to navigate. So we will need to do private writer type writer import this an async, and we need to import the storage. I'm not using observations. Let's get rid of stuff we're not using. Intro page. Add in the storage. We want to set something in the storage. Alright, so we want to in here we want to set completed equals true. Okay, so I want to set that it is true, and then we want to go to the home page. Okay, so this should be the implementation done. Let's go to our Ionic App, Ionic Serve. So right now there's no persistence to the back end, so if they uninstall the app and reinstall the app, they'll see the tour or the intro again. I don't have an issue with that, because if you're coming back to the application, it may have changed since the last time you've installed it, so you probably should go through the sort of slideshow introduction to the application. If not, we can persist it into the back end, but what you might find is when you start an app at the start, you have to wait for the back end to call out and then return a result, where this is stored directly on device. So I would normally try to keep this in a local storage because I want this to be very quick from a interaction perspective. All right, so we go slider 1, slider 2, slider 3. So let me inspect. Okay, so that looks fine, and then we do continue, and okay, so now continue is done. So now if I refresh on home, I get straight into home. Now what we can do to remove that is we can go into the application tab of your inspector, and as you can see here, the values, cap intro completed. I got that twice. Completed intro, intro completed. Why is that there twice? I am unsure. Anyway, so I can delete these from the local storage. Delete, delete. And now if I hit refresh, you'll go straight into the welcome. So anytime somebody opens an app, you'll have the splash screen that kicks in while the app is loading. And once that splash screen has finished, if it's the first time they've ever used the application, or we don't have this thing locally persisted, they're going to be forced into the introduction. As you can see, the introduction's got multiple slides. It's got the buttons along the bottom, giving us an idea of where we are. And then the final one has the continue, which completes it, and then takes us into the home directory. So that's it for this video. We now have an introduction tour plugged in. It is mandatory in the selection. So yeah, I hope you find this useful. And then continue. Now, we could potentially have a mechanism where if they enter it again, we put the bar back in. But they're all extensions. But I think that every app should have an introduction, and the introduction should be persisted locally so that I don't have a flickering effect where I sort of see a screen and it disappears and another screen kicks in. And this, in my opinion, is the best way to do this with the Ionic framework. I hope you find these videos useful. I'm Darren Rogan. Check me out on the socials at @Darren Rogan. And I hope you launch something awesome today. Ciao.